All of this for what? Because of a puppy?
Wasn't just a puppy.
John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum. This has been my most anticipated movie of all time. Ever since the ending of Chapter 2, I've waited and waited for this movie to be released. And I'm glad to say that this is not only the best John Wick movie of the franchise, but it is now my new favorite movie of all time. I remember the second right after I saw John Wick Chapter 2, my mind was blown, and I remember looking up John Wick Chapter 3 release date and just being pumped. That was on December 29th, 2017, so I've waited a year and a half for this movie, and it did not let down at all. Well, with that being said, let's just get right into this review. I love this movie so much. I'll start out with the action. The action was awesome. It was so fast-paced. It was so well choreographed. The fight scenes were very wide. Everything was just perfect about the action. These were some of the best action scenes I've ever seen in a movie, and the first 30 minutes of this movie were so intense. The action was incredible. There's one knife scene which I won't ruin. It's just terrific. The first 30 minutes, I have to say, were probably the best 30 minutes of a movie I've ever seen. I loved it. It was so intense. Right after that huge wait for this movie, I've been waiting and waiting, and that was just, I was so excited. I was actually shaking during the first 45 minutes. It was that intense, and I was just that excited. It was crazy. The action is terrific. It's like, the shootout's perfect. Fight scenes, perfect. Knife scenes, perfect. Sword scenes, perfect. Motorcycle chases, perfect. The horse scene, oh my gosh, the horse scene. The horse scene was so good. Never been this hyped about a movie in a review like this. I've never been this hyped. This movie was so incredibly amazing. I don't know how people could not like this movie. If you went to see this movie in IMAX like I did, you probably had the best experience of your life. That was an over-exaggeration, but still, it was awesome. This whole movie was just incredible, filled with action, beautiful scenery. There's some very beautiful fights in this movie, very beautiful locations like in Chapter 2, even though there's one scene in a mirror house in this movie. Every part of that looks just beautiful. The action in that scene is amazing. It's like a 30-minute non-stop action sequence. It's crazy. This movie also has a final fight, like the other movies don't. Well, the first one does, but this one has a very good one, and I won't spoil anything. It's just, they did a great job with it. It's the best, one of the best scenes in the entire franchise. The world building in this movie too. They built upon the Continental. The Continental is, you know, they mainly explored it more in Chapter 2 and Chapter 1 and everything, but they built more upon the assassin organization, and they increased the size of it, and you really see how much, like, around the world that these places are in, and it's just another great part of the movie. The first John Wick movie, the world building was terrific. That's one of the reasons I loved it. Chapter 2 built upon that world. Chapter 3 is the best work they've done with it so far, because now you really see, like, the depth of this underground assassin organization, and I love everything about the world building in this movie. Another thing that I won't spoil, by the way, but I think is really well done, the choices Mr. Wick makes. I won't spoil it, but there's one scene that really makes him feel humane and really makes you care about him even more. And that's all I'm going to talk about, that choice. That's another reason why I love this. This movie never strays away from the plot as well. Yeah, this movie's very focused. Chapter 2 is very focused. In fact, all these movies were very focused, but this one was like never strayed away. There's no stupid romance or anything. It's all just so well executed, and everything is just like, you know, it's in the order of, everything's just organized in this movie, and nothing strays away from the plot. Critics have complained about there being like a long sequence in this movie, mainly the second act, that people don't like. I loved it. I think the scenes without action actually built up upon the world. And some people might not appreciate that, but I did, because if you think about it, John Wick is really not just an action movie. And a lot of people don't notice that. John Wick is actually like a huge world building extravaganza that I don't really want to speak more about, because I just want you to experience this movie the way I experienced. And it's just, this movie's, it's incredible. I loved it. And this movie adds something new to every scene in this movie. There's like knife scenes, there's ninjas, there's everything. There's a horse fight scene. There's like, I can't explain everything, because I just want you to experience it like to the fullest. And this movie is absolutely incredible. And I've said that like 80 times, I know, but like I've never been this hyped to see a movie, and I've never been this hyped talking about a movie. All the action scenes in this movie were incredible. The people behind me in the theater were like cheering during some action scenes, and you know, I was with the real audience, and there's scenes that will make you scream, "Oh!" like out loud, because they're just that insane. And these movies are so creative, and that's one of the things I love so much about John Wick, is like these movies are so creative, and they create their own mythology as they go on, and they just do such a great job with everything. And who cares if it's unrealistic? Like, to be honest, that's what makes John Wick great. And that's why this is my favorite action franchise, because non-stop, just creative, beautiful action. And they built like so much creative ideas around all these movies, and I just really loved it. Another thing I really loved about this movie was Keanu Reeves' performance and everyone else. Keanu Reeves is just amazing in this movie. In fact, there's one scene where he's in this theater, and I won't spoil what's going on, but he just gives a great performance. He's really good in this movie. You could, whenever something painful happens to him, you could really feel the pain from like his face and everything. It's just, you know, he does a really great job with this movie, and the stunts he does are awesome as well. He's really good. You know, I don't even have to talk about that. Keanu Reeves is just amazing. Halle Berry is very good in this movie. She's just as great as in the action sequences. She's really not in that many, but still, she's really great in like this movie, and her performance is really good as well. Ian McShane, Lance Reddick, they're all really good in this movie. And the villain's awesome. I don't know if I like him as much as Michael Nyqvist in the first movie. Him and the villain in this movie, I think the weakest villain was definitely in the second movie. But this movie has a really great villain, and this is the biggest physical challenge for John Wick. This is the most challenging villain that John Wick has faced up against. And he just adds so much to the movie, and he brings a bit of comedy to the movie as well. He's a very different villain, and Mark Dacascos is amazing as him. One other thing I liked about this movie, like a lot, was the soundtrack is incredible. It's my favorite soundtrack I've ever heard. The music is incredible. The opening credits scene is the best opening credits scene I've ever seen. Scene. It's just, everything about it is amazing. Yeah, that's it. Minor flaws, which I won't take away from the movie, are some unbelievability. You know, in New York City, there's people getting sliced up, like, out in the middle of, like, everywhere, and nobody's even noticing. But that's a problem I had with Chapter 2, but I didn't take away from Chapter 2 for that, so I'm not really going to take away from that. And some minor things I'll talk about in a spoiler review, but, yeah, I don't really want to talk about it now, but I'm still not going to take away from the movie. I love this movie so much. It was so great. John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum is everything I could possibly want from a movie. It's my new favorite movie, and of course, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum absolutely deserves an A+. Wow, I am just absolutely blown away by how amazing this movie was. With this franchise, I think each installment gets better right after the next, and right after the last, you know, whatever. It's just, I think each movie got better right after the last one in this franchise. Chapter 2 is better than the first one. Chapter 3 I like more than the second one. And I just loved it. I can't wait to get a spoiler review out for this movie. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.